Hey, can we get FDOT to be panelists, Justin and Jensen, so they can speak?
Justin and, I'm sorry, who else? Sandy? Oh, Jensen, okay, yes, I will do that in just a moment.
I think the boardroom is muted right now.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you, David. Yes, I'll take care of that, Tania, in just a minute.
Thank you, Todd. And possibly change their names to FDOT if you could, so that way everybody just knows who's kind of speaking.
If I can, yes, I will.
Thank you.
Cody River presentation, let's see, Cody River presentation.
Hey,
There he is.
we have a quorum.
Come on.
So right now there's no one in queue to speak, correct? Okay.
No, there is
No
not.
thought, okay.
Jensen. Randy. Okay, I'll just make Randy, Randy's here, but I don't see, no, I have it right here on the screen. Thank you, though.
Are we good to start at 10 o'clock?
You are good to start,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the virtual Pasco County Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting of May 14, 2020. I would like to remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices and mute your microphones. At this time, I would like to ask all of you to rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
Of the
America,
United States of America, and to the which is under indivisible.
All the background noises.
I know.
Okay, we're going to move on to, Madam Clerk, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilman Lance Smith. Mayor Scott Tremblay. Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Wells. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Here.
And Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Here. Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda review. Mr. Blackshear, would you please go over today's agenda with the MPO board?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Board members, good morning. For the record, Ronnie Blackshear. There's basically one change to our agenda this morning. Under item 11, we will be adding the Cody River Trail Phase 1 feasibility study, the update to that study, which the board requested at its March 12th MPO board meeting. The PDD consultant and the PDD project manager will provide a brief presentation on that study status. And that's the only change to it.
Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Blackshear will review the virtual meeting requirements with assistance from Mr. David Goldstein, the county attorney.
Sure. Again, for the record, Ronnie Blackshear, MPO staff. This marks our first virtual MPO meeting. We had our virtual TAC meeting this past Monday, May 11th, and the CAC meeting on yesterday, Wednesday, May 13th. I would remind board members to please note a roll call vote is required for all action items. in order to establish a quorum, since not all members are physically present in one room, and each member must verbally state their name and indicate either yes or no to an action item. As with the TAC and CAC, the public can participate in the virtual meeting during the call for public input section, and they can do so by phone during the meeting or via email, which I believe we've have had one so far. Also in your packet, you'll find a draft resolution adopting rules and procedures for the MPO public meetings conducted through Communications Media Technology, or CMT. The platform that we're using in Pasco County is WebEx platform. As you know, this is due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the resolution is based on and is consistent with a series of executive orders that was issued by the Governor DeSantis and the BOCC Resolution 20-118 to allow the use of CMT for the MPO board meetings and also its advisory and committee meetings. The governor's latest executive order, 20-114, allows for virtual meetings until July 8th, and it's anticipated that the county administrator will be going to the BOCC at its May 19th BOCC meeting with a memo stating that all meetings will remain virtual until June 30th. And at this moment now, I would end, and if Mr. David Goldstein wants to add anything, I would allow him to do so.
Ronnie, I think you've covered it accurately, so I have nothing to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to call for public input. Now is the time for public comment. Citizens are given an opportunity to comment on any item coming before the board during this public comment section. The board also takes public comment on items to be placed on a future board agenda or other business under the purview. Due to the COVID-19 operations and to safeguard the well-being and safety of our citizens and staff, today's public comment will be handled differently and will only address items on May 14th agenda. First, we will take public comment from callers that have pre-registered and are currently in queue. After, we will read into the record the public comments, documents, PowerPoints, or videos that have been identified by members of the public to be read out loud or played at the meeting, not to exceed 3 minutes for each. This new format does not waive the request that when you address the board, comments are not directed personally against the commissioner or team member, but rather directed at the issues. This provides mutual respect between the board members and the public. For those participants calling in, after stating your name and address for the clerk, the timer will be activated and will start a countdown. After 2 minutes, one beep will sound, letting you know that only 1 minute remains. After that time is up, 2 beeps will sound, indicating 3 minutes are up. Please note that calls will be disconnected after the 3-minute mark. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone in queue for public comment?
We do not.
We do not, okay. So no one has registered to speak. So we'll now move on to reading the public comments that the board has received via email. We have received one email. However, the emails did not identify the specific portions that should be read out loud. Therefore, these will be submitted as receive and file. Is that correct, Ms. Colson?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
So we will move on now from public input. I will remind everybody the clerk will be doing a roll call vote for any action items. So we're going to move on to approval of meeting minutes from meeting minutes of March 12, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 12, 2020?
McMorro makes a motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Councilman Lance Smith. Scott Tremblay. Mayor Camille Hernandez. Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Whoops, hold on a minute. You hearing me?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Yes.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Aye.
And Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to MPO Advisory Committee reports. Is Ms. Marilyn DeChant with us with Citizens Advisory Committee? Apparently not. No. So we'll move on then to BPAC. Is Dr. Randy Stovall with us?
Good morning. We have not had a BPAC meeting since February 25, and I reported to you about that meeting at your March 12th meeting, but I will say our next meeting is scheduled for June. Unfortunately, it's still going to be a virtual meeting, but we'll be glad to get together again. Tina Russell, our bike planner, is not with you today because she's attending NFDOT Sun Trail meeting, and as you know, that's important to us, so we're glad that she's able to do that. And I would just say that this May is National Bicycle Week, so it's a good time to ride. It follows March as Florida Bicycle Week because we have an earlier spring than others. I know we talked about that at the last meeting. Some good news. The good news is that the parks being open again means people can get out and ride or walk and enjoy that. So that's very good for us. And then the last thing I would just kind of remind folks of is we still looking for a celebration when we can for the Starkey Gap Trail segment. And more to come next time.
Dr. Stovall, thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments for Dr. Stovall? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much for attending today. We appreciate it. So we have 3 action items on our agenda. The first is going to be 2-year Unified Planning Work Program. Mr. Blackshear?
Yes, for the record again, Mr. Ronnie Blackshear, MPO staff. As you know, that we go through a 2-year process every 2 years with our Unified Planning Work Program. This is a document that specifically outlines the MPO's budget and the type of planning activities that they will be doing. We had set a 30-day public comment period that began on March 27th through April 28th to allow the public and all interested parties to review and comment on the proposed draft UPWP. We did receive comments, and we've actually incorporated those comments from the public and also other stakeholders. And the UPWP actually is for fiscal years 2021 through fiscal years 2022. The UPD is a statement of work to be performed, identifying planning priorities and activities to be carried out by the MPO. The MPO's transportation planning activities are supported primarily by federal and state grants. And the work tasks identified and allocation of funds among those various tasks support the overall planning program. Some of the highlights of the UPWP is that we do have, we've allocated some dollars working with our economic development team and also the public transportation department for microtransit planning. There's dollars allocated for that. We're going to look at freight planning, working with our FDOT District 7 partners, things of that nature. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, I have no more comments, but if there's any additional comments regarding the UPWP, staff also, who's also worked heavily on this document, are also available to answer those questions. Thank you. We ask that the action is for the board to adopt the UPWP.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Blackshear?
This is Auribel Rivero, MPO staff. I just have one comment. There will be some minor revisions to the document that you have in the agenda, and that's just to address the comments that we have received from our planning partners and other departments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then may I have a motion to approve the 2-year Unified Planning Work Program?
Ron Oakley moves approval.
We have a first.
Commissioner Starkey. I'll second with discussion.
Okay, we have a
How
first.
can we
and a
vote on
second.
something when we haven't seen it?
Go ahead, Commissioner Starkey.
How can we vote on something when we haven't seen what the comments are?
Yes, ma'am, Commissioner Starkey. This is Auri Rivera again for the record. Yes, we have posted the comments in most of the comments in your in the copy that you have in the agenda, and also online. We just added one additional set of comments, which was PCPT, and they simply wanted us to revise some of the language and also add their expenses to our budget tables. But other than that,
Okay, 'cause-
everything else is the same as the copy that you have in your packet.
Okay, thank you. I'm scrolling through here. It's a big document. Okay. So I seconded it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll say I don't see any comments from the public and the agenda item we have in front of us.
I'm trying to find it myself.
You can find the comments in the appendix. It's towards the end of the packet, and you will see that there are some FDOT comments, also FHWA and FDA comments. We received comments from one CAC member and one TAC member indicating that they thought they were happy with what they had seen. And we addressed all of FDA's and FHWA comments as well as FDOT's comments. We went over the modifications with them. Also, as I indicated, in addition to what you have in your packet, we did receive some comments from PCPT. And that was basically that they wanted us to reflect their expenses regarding salaries and also their expenses regarding consultants and just some minor language changes. And we've included that in the final packet that's going to be presented to the clerk.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner,
looks like it's on like,
Can you tell us what page goes up?
it looks like it's on
This
like,
is Manny with the staff. Let me just, she has already has placed a link on your agenda to this action item. The UPWP is a 102-page document, so we provided you with a link, and all of these comments are at the end of the UPWP document once you pull it up.
Commissioner Starkey?
Okay, Manny, real quick, Commissioner Mariano asked to have the floor, please.
yeah, I noticed it's kind of, I thought it'd be at the end of the document where I didn't see it. It's actually like on page 73 where you'll see some of the comments.
Yes, sir. I was going to say it starts around 73 on down.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Thank you, Commissioner Mariano. Is there any further discussion? Or you want to wait a minute to read the comments?
I'm good.
No? Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve this action item. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Lance Smith, Scott Tremblay, Mayor Camille Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells, Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Aye. Motion passes. So we're going to move on to the second of three action items. The next is going to be the joint MPO FDOT certification. Mr. Lejmiri?
Good morning, MPO members and those who are tuning in. This is Manny Lajmiri with MPO staff. This joint MPO FDOT certification is something that comes before you annually. It's to assess how the MPO is in compliance with federal and state laws as it pertains to the metropolitan transportation planning. This certification is for the calendar year 2019. There is a certification summary and a statement at the end of the agenda item. And just going briefly over the summary, it includes some categorized notable achievements, some recommended actions, and 3 corrective actions that we need to do before our next certification. In summary, the Pasco MPO was found to be in compliance with federal and state guidelines for metropolitan planning. And based on this joint review and evaluation, staff and DOT recommend that the MPO process for Pasco County be certified. And the staff is asking at this time that the MPO authorize the chair to sign the joint certification statement. I would entertain any question that you may have.
Are there any questions or comments remaining?
Ron Oakley moves approval.
Camille Hernandez seconds.
We have a first and a second. Commissioner Mariano, did you want to say something? No? Is there any further discussion on this action item? It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the joint MPO FDOT certification. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilman Lance Smith, Scott Tremblay, Mayor Camille Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells, Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Aye. So that motion passes as well. So the third and final action item is going to be the FDOT MPO PL agreement for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. Mr. Blackshear?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Ronnie Blackshear, MPO staff. The existing MPO PL agreement is set to expire this June 30th, and a new PL agreement is needed to be approved and will be effective for a 2-year period, and it coincides with our UPWP. That 2-year period begins on July 1st of 2020 and through June 30th of 2022. FDOT requires all MPOs in Florida to complete this action before the end of the current fiscal year. In order to utilize these federal funds, the MPO must enter into an agreement, which this is, with the FDOT that specifies the scope of the planning work to be conducted in products, time frame, various stipulations of that nature. And again, that also coincides with our UPWP. And staff recommends that the MPO board review and approve the new planning agreement with FDOT. And you have a copy of the resolution and also the agreement itself. And I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to.
Jack
Ron
Mariano,
Oakley
move approval.
We have a first.
Ron Oakley seconds.
We have a first and a second. If there's no further discussion, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the FDOT MPO PL agreement for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. May we have a roll call vote again, please?
Yes. Councilman Lance Smith, Scott Tremblay, Mayor Camille Hernandez, Mayor Camille Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells, Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Aye. The motion passes as well. So now we'll move on with Mr. Scheibel with the Pasco County Public Transportation Reports and Updates.
Good morning, Board. I hope everybody's doing good. It's been a while. A lot of things have happened since the last time I've actually been able to talk to you all. Because of all the Corona stuff, just give you a quick overview in case anybody has not known what we've been doing over these last couple of months and how we're moving forward. We have a program in place right now where I have people that actually, we call them bus attendants, where they clean the bus as soon as someone gets off of it. So they ride around on their buses and on the more popular routes, and then they wipe down the seats and the bars and so forth as we move forward to help make sure that we're keeping our both our drivers and our citizens safe. We also have a team in place that we're gonna turn into a permanent organization, part of the team, eventually as part of the CARES Act funding to clean the buses every night, both on the east and west side. The good news is the McKendree facility is in place and my team is in the building and we're using it as we speak. So a project that's been going since about 2008 is now complete. And we're looking at how we're going to set up the ribbon cutting and all that other fun stuff. And don't know how we're going to move forward with that, but we're looking at the options of working with Canberry's team over in the PIO office to set up a ribbon cutting out over there. So it's up, and if you haven't been by, you might want to just drive by. It's a really pretty building. Andrew Baxter's team over in facilities did a fantastic job getting that taken care of. So just be careful. There is an alligator now in our front pond, so we have our first pet already. As for the Shady Hills route, we had to push that back. We're planning right now to start it in 1 October, both for the COVID stuff and our buses were still being built. when everything went into place, our buses were like 2 weeks away from being on the line at the plant in California before they shut down. We're actually one of the first buses that are going to be coming off the new line. They plan on starting the line back up around the 8th of June, and our buses should be coming off the line somewhere towards the end of June and getting them in place here in the county in July. We'll be moving those buses onto the routes as we go along, but we're going to hold off on the Shady Hills route moving forward. I do plan to come in with the Shady Hills route, actually show you all the stops and the maps and everything else, and get your comments on it before we actually go live with that. I'm hoping I'll have that for the August meeting, as we won't have one in July as normal. So plan on seeing that coming very, very soon, because I know a lot of you are waiting anxiously for that to get going. One of the other things that's been happening is our regional fairs that we've been working with Hillsborough County down in Hart. We've been running into some snags on that, just to let you know what's going on. And the problem is that they're not really putting the rules into place to make that go forward properly, i.e. a good audit trail. I may need to talk to you about that, keep you briefed on it, but they're moving forward, but the audit trail is kind of weak right now. The problem is they're not addressing it. I'll probably look for your direction on how we want to proceed with that, because if they can't tell me where the dollars are going, and then how do we know that we're getting our dollars that our citizens are spending on our buses? And of course, as we move beyond the COVID, one of the big things is, how is transit going to be after the COVID crisis is over? One of the things that committees I am on is I'm on the executive committee for Florida Public Transportation Association, and we've been on the committee that's helped do the responses to the governor and so forth on what transit needs to be moving forward as, because we're really concerned on, like Route 19, we have a lot of vehicles on, a lot of people that ride that route. How are we going to maintain or limit exposure for any type of disease as we move forward to prevent something like this ever happening again? So there's a lot of concerns about that. We are working on ways to do it, whether it's going to be more buses or cleaning or whatever it is possible. But we're looking at ways to make it go forward. Other than that, if you don't, I'm open for any questions that you all might have for me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scheibel. Is there any questions or concerns? Mr. Blackshear?
Actually, not for this, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to go back to the item in the beginning regarding the virtual meeting requirements, and it was an action required item. I'm not sure if the board actually voted on it.
I meant to bring that up. I saw that on the agenda. So do we have to approve the fact that we're doing virtual meetings?
Yes, the resolution.
Okay, so approve the resolution. All right, so Ms. Scheibel will be right back with you. May I have a motion to approve the resolution to allow us to have these virtual meetings for the MPO board? I'd entertain a motion.
Ron Oakley approves.
Okay, so we have a first. Commissioner Starkey, did you second it?
Camille, second.
Camille did, okay. So may we have the roll call vote for the resolution?
Councilman Lance Smith, Scott Tremblay, Mayor Camille Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells, Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Aye.
and Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Aye. So the motion to approve the resolution is passed. Mr. Scheibel, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or concerns for Mr. Scheibel?
And Mr. Chair, one thing I did forget is that we did get approximately $12 million through the CARES Act, and we will be using that to help get some things moving forward. It's paying for all our cleaning crews and helping keeping our drivers on the road. So we are working to get that application into FTA so we can actually start spending it, but it is a direct allocation to us. So I just have to jump through the hoops to get the funding.
Well, that's great news, and I just want to thank you for keeping our transportation buses both clean and sanitized while we try to prevent COVID-19 from spreading any more than it has here in Pasco. So thank you for all you're doing on those measures. If there's nothing else from Mr. Scheibel, we'll move on to presentations, status reports, and updates. The first is going to be draft 2020 list of priority projects, and I believe Manny's going to take that one, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, MPO board, we're in the midst of a 30-day public comment period on the draft 2020 list of priority projects. And in your agenda, you have a link to the document. It's a 16-page document. So this is what provides guidance to DOT when they develop and program projects and programs in their 5-year work program. We will bring this final draft to you in your June MPO meeting for your review and approval. So far, based on the comments we have received and some of the committee meetings we've had, I'd just like to get your blessing on like 3 major changes that we will be doing to this list of priority projects. Number 1, in a continued effort to streamline the MPO priority list into one list, we have several lists, and every year we're trying to combine them. So we're moving the regional trails projects into the main Table 1 list. Number 2 significant change would be we are removing is not a good word. We're moving Cody River project, the number 1 TA project, into this main list, mainly for the reason of having access to more revenues available to the MPO to maybe perhaps do the project faster. This is in coordination with DOT, and I think this is a good move for us to do. Number 3 major change would be based on coordination with the county. And as you all know, when DOT builds the new 52, we have 2 roundabouts in the existing 52 corridor. One is at 52 and St. Joe Road and Meridian realignment. That's we're thinking about putting a roundabout, and the other one is at Pampanic. So these 2 as low-hanging fruits, we may move them up into top tier. So before the DOT hands over the 52 to the county, we can get these improvements done, and the only way they can get done ahead of time is to move them up the priority list. So that's what we're going to be doing. Still, this project is, as I mentioned, is going through a 30-day comment period. And if the MPO board has any comments at this time, or they can provide those to us, the 30-day ends on May 27th to give us enough time to incorporate in the final document. And as I mentioned, you'll have it before you for the June adoption date.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I will entertain any questions you may have.
Commissioner Mariano.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I mean, to make a major change like this, I think it would have been good to send this out ahead of time to discuss it with maybe a special agenda item specifically stating just what you're stating now, so we could have reviewed it, asked questions ahead of time. Changing the Cody River project to the new group with new funding. Tell me a little bit more detail how that's going to help, because I don't want to see that project get slowed down whatsoever, especially now that the feasibility, which we're going to see later on, is going to be presented.
Mr. Blackshear.
Yes, sure, Commissioner. For the record, Ronnie Blackshear, MPO staff. The reason why we moved the Cody River project and also the Marine Parkway overpass project from the multi-use trails list to this main list is because of the amount of funding that's available for TA projects. We're looking at around $3 million for the whole District 7. It's not just for Pasco, this is all for District 7, which includes Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Hernando Citrus. That project itself, I believe it's around $4 million. If you're only going to leave it in that TA list, you're probably looking at maybe, if trying to finance it, maybe 15, 20 years or more down the line. It's still the #1 project in the TA list, so it still has that opportunity to get funding. However, bringing it to the main list, it opens it up for the possibility of additional funds for projects of that size that just totally passes that amount of money that's actually secured for our region, for our district. So it gives this project an opportunity to secure additional funding and also look at other funding sources.
Okay, so it stays on the list it's on currently, it just can be added to the other. one to
Stays
get
on the
funding.
TA list,
All right,
that's
so
the number one
the word
project,
move
but
might be the right move, but,
yeah, that's
Okay.
the thing. I've doing this a while and stuff, and working with DOT, and also our staff have been working with our district. And for that, you want to have that opportunity to open the doors for projects that are so large that you may not see it come to fruition for another 25 or 30 years.
okay. And I'm supportive of the rotaries, however, I don't want to shift other projects ahead of it. I mean, we wanted to get the design done to make sure it was going to work, but.
Well, and that's another thing too, is that as we go through this priority list and put together the priorities, when you see the final priority list in June, it's your purview as a board to vote how you want to have that list. We know, as Manny had stated, with those roundabouts, that's a part of 52. That's an important aspect of that roadway, and the amount of money, I'm not sure it's showing here, but as far as having that as a part of the whole package, we will be looking at massaging this whole list. Several of the ATMS projects that are in there now are actually coming out because they're all county funded, so that kind of moves a lot of things up in the priority list.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. I just want to bring this to the board's attention as well. The Newport Richey City Council approved Tuesday for us to fund $20,000 for a trails feasibility study. As we know, we have some gaps in trails. Once that feasibility study is completed, I've asked Debbie Manzer, city manager, to forward the study on to the MPO staff and board members. Not sure when it's going to be done, but I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention that we did approve that study on Tuesday, and we're hoping to get some good results from the study, and we'll forward it on to the board once again and staff when it's completed. Any other comments regarding the list of priority projects?
Yeah, Camille Hernandez, just had a comment.
Ms. Hernandez.
As far as the roundabouts, I know that is very important, not only the one on Meridian and St. Joe Road, but Pompanic as well, just with all the new things that are happening in this side of East Pasco. So appreciate the consideration, and we look forward to getting that done, and hopefully as we continue to move forward. It has been something under discussion for many, many years, as many other items have, but appreciate that and look forward to that staying on everybody's radar screen as we move forward to get it completed, designed and completed.
Mayor Hernandez, this is Manny. I'd like to ask both yourself and Commissioner Oakley about your preference. As we spoke to the county engineer, Ms. Margaret Smith believes that the Pompanic one is more kind of like in higher priority than the other one. I just wanted to ask for your opinion on that.
Oh.
Because we're planning on listing the Pompanic one, flip-flopping them as the county engineer and engineering administration has requested from us.
Well, look, they're both, I mean, that's really a tough one because they're both really important. Obviously, one is almost the gateway to the other. And again, with all of the things that are happening and the increase of projects and homes that are being built, Pompanic I can see because it's coming that way and bringing it to the Meridian. But Commissioner Oakley, what are your thoughts? I know the Meridian St. Joe Road has been really actually on the radar screen before the other one popped up. I appreciate your input.
Manny, which one did you say Margaret was?
So Margaret is speaking to the two roundabouts. One is right at the Meridian 52 St. Joe, the offset. And the other one is just to the west of College at Pompanic. Due to some safety reasons, she believes we should do that one first. They will be listed right next to each other. It's not that's going to be, they're going to be next to each other or near the top. So hopefully DOT can really fund both of them. DOT has a resurfacing project coming up, and they're, based on the MPO's priority list, they may be able to incorporate these roundabouts with the resurfacing if they could.
When is the resurfacing starting, Manny? When is that resurfacing started?
Can someone from DOT respond to that? Because I'm not sure right now.
Okay. Goodness, that is a hard question because both of them are very important for this area. I tend to think the St. Joe would be better, but I think I need to talk to Margaret a little bit and get a little more information, so.
We'll just wait for your guidance.
Manny, I agree with Commissioner Oakley, Manny or Commissioner Oakley. I mean, this is the first time I know both, like I said, the Meridian St. Joe, they're both extremely important. If it's a matter of they're both going to be there and the time is not going to be significant, but I would like to get some more information too, especially before that June meeting, and would like to talk to Margaret personally so I can understand the variables because they're both extremely important to this community in these areas. So I'd hate to say one is more important than the other.
I have a question.
Commissioner Mariano and then Commissioner Starkey.
Yeah, do we have a map we can put up to actually show where these two are? Because I'm a little confused, I think, about where these things are exactly. So I thought I knew it, but then I'm hearing different descriptions of the roads. Is there a map available?
Commissioner Starkey, go ahead.
I recall Commissioner Schrader talking to us about I'm going to forget, 52 and somewhere over San Antonio.
That's it, Commissioner Starkey. That's the one.
The intersection is that?
We can pull up a map for you. Hey, Todd, can you pull up the list of priority projects?
What I'm talking about? That's in Panic.
Near St. Leo University.
So those are listed currently as number 24 and 21 in the northeast corner of the map.
That didn't really. Jack, you know when we're going to the intersection where if you turn left, you drive into San Antonio?
Todd, if you kind of zoom into the northeast Pasco, kind of.
The intersection on.
Manny, the one you're talking about is at the Jiffy store. That's the one that Margaret's thinking is more dangerous, and I pretty well agree. Most people that pull up there that are not used to the area, they don't know where they go straight or turn or where they're going in that issue on that one.
True, Commissioner.
Right, just so I'm clear, if I may.
The Pompanic one is number 24, and 52 Meridian St. Joe realignment is number 21. At this time, but we're moving those.
So 24 is if you're coming east on 52 and you get to that stop sign and you have to take
Those aren't the ones I'm.
You have to take correct me if I'm wrong, you have to take a left to go to downtown San Antonio and a right to go to St. Leo University, correct? Is that the intersection we're talking about?
Correct.
24?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 24.
They've had issues
That's
there. I don't
24,
know
yes.
if they've had accidents.
That's number 24.
It's a very funky intersection. Actually, both of them are. That one, there is confusing just because of the way it is. And I know Commissioner Schrader at the time did come and I think report to us personally. So from I guess they're both, again, they're both need attention. I mean, I'm not opposed to Meridian being done after the other, but not years. We can't wait years just with all growth and development well happening. That's going to be another nightmare leading to other accidents. So like going back to what Commissioner Oakley said, I would definitely like to sit with Margaret or whoever staff to, I'm sure Commissioner Oakley does as well, so we can, I wish I would have had that opportunity prior to today to do that. So I would like more information.
Manny?
Yes, sir.
I can understand the one at the Jiffy store at San Ann when people going west, come there, they're not sure it's really just a left turn and it's a gradual.
Flashing light in there right now.
And there's no red light there and it's caused issues from people crossing, coming back to the east. And then also people coming off 52, coming to the east. And there's been some real issues there. I personally don't know of a lot of accidents there, but I'll have to talk to Margaret to confirm that. But I can understand how that is important, but St. Joe and 52 coming in Dade City is also very important. The difference between the two is St. Joe and 52 coming in edge of Dade City. It does have a red light and has a little more control, and I think it's a little safer than the one at Jiffy. And that may be Margaret's thoughts, but I'd like to reach out to her and talk to her about that and make sure there's not a lot of time between doing the two. I'd like to see both of them being done at the same time.
Agree.
And I know that doesn't always happen, but I've got to call Margaret on some other issues after this meeting, so I'll reach out to her, and then Manny, I'll give you a call and let you know what she tells me. And Camille, also, I'll call you.
Thank you. Commissioner Starkey,
sir.
go ahead.
If you look at paper that the 20 projects, you can go and see that there is a section entitled Intersect Projects. And there is criteria, just like we did for the sidewalk prioritization. There is a criteria using to determine which intersections in the county need attention first. So, I have no idea which is the most dangerous intersection in the county, but I'm a big believer in following the criteria and the data as we move forward. I have no doubt those two intersections are up there, but I just want to draw your attention to that we do have criteria so that we don't do any, muscling or whatever to move projects around, but we follow the data. Thank you.
Good points.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Mariano.
Yeah, I think the data is definitely important as well. Now that we have the clarity, thank you for putting the map up. So the one at Pompanic, where you take the right turn, that's where the Q restaurant is as well at St. Leo. And I do remember Commissioner Schrader coming to us. I thought it was a good idea to get it into DOT's radar to try to get it designed. I don't think that would be a super expensive one to get done, and I think that would be strong merit. I didn't know about the other one coming up, but as well as data is important, it's also funding important, and we've still got projects on the west side that need to get done, so depending on how it structures, I wouldn't mind seeing the whole list together, but I do think we need to get briefed before these things to make these big changes too.
Fletcher, go ahead.
Yes, board members, just to let you know, this is basically for information only. We'll be bringing back to you the actual final list of priority projects for the June 11th meeting. So your comments are important, and we will take them into account. And working with internal staff, Margaret Smith and her group, and also DOT, we will take into, like I said, we'll take into consideration your comments prior to making this final list. And then, of course, like I said, once the list comes to you in June, at the June meeting, it's your purview to move projects how you feel fit.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
Okay.
Justin Hall with FDOT. Just a point of information, the 52 resurfacing project is programmed in fiscal year 2023. And the goal has been to try and complete both of those roundabouts. And that was in accordance and agreement and discussion with the roadway transfer for 52 and State Road 52 and County Road 52 as part of the realignment. So just for point of information.
Thank you very much.
Kenia Gorman wishes to be recognized.
Commissioner Mariano, go ahead.
I was just about to say the same thing Justin said, so I don't need to do that again.
Thank you, Tania. Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the information for DOT. So knowing it's to be tied into a resurfacing program, to do them together makes the most sense, so I'm sure that'll show up well in the presentation. Thank you.
All right, if there's no further discussion regarding the list of priority projects, we'll move on to the Draft Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, for fiscal years 2021 through 2025. Manny, go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, sir. So again, for this TIP is basically the end result of what the MPO board prioritizes. What you did last year in August, the priority list was developed and forwarded to DOT. DOT took the priority list and tried to fund projects and programs using the priority list. we are again, as the list of priority project was, this is going through a 30-day public comment period that also ends on May 27th. And I will prepare a PowerPoint presentation for the meeting and go over some of the projects that were funded in the 21 to 25 timetable. Just one comment in this meeting is the number one priority that you set on 52 from 41 to Bellamy Brothers. Basically, this would be the last piece of 52 to be improved. DOT was able to fund maybe 2/3 of it up to Aaron cutoff. And that was in the tune of about $47 million for construction that they have programmed in the year 2025. Like I said, I will highlight some of the capacity, transportation alternative, and other improvements that were programmed in your June meeting for your review and approval. This is just for informational, it's an informational item for your review at this time.
Thank you.
If there are any question, I'll be able to answer that.
Any questions or concerns for Manny? Seeing none, we thank you, Mayor, very much. We'll move on. The item that's been added for presentations is going to be the Cody River Trail Phase 1 feasibility study with Ms. Duke and Mr. Kurtz.
Ms. Duke, I believe you're on.
Paul Kurtz with AECom is available to provide the presentation on the status of the Cody River Trail Phase 1 feasibility study. Final report.
Is Mr. Kurtz?
Should I take the?
So Paul, if you want to take it from here.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Is someone going to advance the slides, or should I do the presentation myself? Should I share my screen, or should we just rely on someone to advance them for me?
You can just
Doesn't
inform
matter
us.
to me.
You can inform us to say next slide. We can do that for you.
All right, next slide, please. Good morning. This is Paul Kurtz. I'm with AECom. We're assisting the county with a feasibility study for the Cody River Trail project. Background, it's in the northwest part of the county where the US 19 crosses the Cody River. You see a map of the study area there and on the right. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Paul, I don't know if you're cutting in and out. Are you still there?
Please. We did have a fairly extensive public outreach process. Previous slide, please. Thank you. Okay, can we go back to slide 6, please?
You're on slide 6 with public outreach.
Okay, taking a minute for me to catch up. Thank you. The public workshop, you see a bunch of pictures of those. Some of the MPO board members were actually able to attend that. We also had some other meetings with key property owners, stakeholders, and we're with the MPO board back in October of last year. There's a website that's also been created with all the updates and the documents that we presented. Next slide, please.
What, if I may ask, what is
These
the,
are-
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Kurtz. What is the website address? Because we I personally get a lot of inquiries from the public regarding this project, and if there's a website I could direct them to, would be wonderful. Is the address in here, or can we say it out loud for the public? Where are we at? Okay, at the bottom there, additional information. Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. You can access it through the long-range planning, Pasco long-range planning department too. Yes, you can see it on the bottom there. So,
thank you.
Slide 7, please. You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, it's taken a while. I'm still on slide 6. I'm just waiting. So sorry for the delay in the presentation here. I'm still looking at slide 6 on the virtual meeting. So.
Okay, we're good on this end if you want to continue.
Thank you. Now it's up. These are just a few of the routes that were discussed during the public meeting, various routes that the public came up with. Some are rather interesting. Next slide, please. One of the things that we heard loud and clear at that meeting was the community's desire to have golf carts included in this solution in some way. So we took that message to heart and looked around and to see what was also going on in the county at this time. And we looked to the connected city. The slide there shows the 18-foot wide multi-purpose trail from the connected city, partly that accommodates golf carts and pedestrians. So we looked at the options. Next slide, please. Look at the options, a couple of those which would accommodate golf carts and a couple that were just for multi-use trail. And they varied in terms of how much right-of-way we would need. Some options looked at just using FDOT right-of-way, and some options looked at using additional right-of-way. So the first one we looked at counted all the DOT right-of-way. That would be no additional property needed. It's very constrained along there with some steep slopes. So next slide, please. The second option we looked at was also one that would accommodate golf carts. And this one, we went on the west side. We felt like it might be better to go down Bailea with the use of a share row and to come down there and then go under the bridge, come back on the east side, and to have a little bit of movement on the other side. The bumps out really are accommodating the existing poles right there. There would be some right-of-way required for that particular option. Next slide, please. The next two options are ones that we looked at that did not utilize, that were only multi-use trail, did not have a golf cart component to it. The first one was a parallel to option alternate A that used entirely the DOT right-of-way. Next slide, please. That's shown here, all within the DOT right-of-way. And then alternate D is parallel to alternate B that is also uses a little bit extra right-of-way on the west side there. Next slide, please. So we took all those and came up with some metrics on how we would evaluate those. We broke them into 5 different criteria. And those were experience, safety, environment, connectivity, and cost. Next slide, please. Each of those had a various weight. Each alternate had a certain score for those. And we came up with an average or a number for each particular option. And the ones that scored the highest were option B, alternate B, and alternate D. Next slide, please. So we took a little bit closer look at alternates B and alternates D. So with alternate B, starting on the west side, or excuse me, the east side with Bailea, as I mentioned, that would be a share row. And what some of the feedback we got in terms of our coordination with DOT was that they wanted to separate the golf cart side from the multi-use trail side. And in doing so, we had to widen it a bit, and that's why it's now 20 feet wide instead of 18. So as you come from the east there would be a little right-of-way that's required. That's the red hatched area. And then that would head up to the, onto a structured area with wall. As you go under the overpass there, that would be all on structure too with pilings above the river. That would lead you to the underside there. And on the other side, where the catches side is, we would need a series of retaining walls to hold that back. And then there would be the little bump outs, the little eyebrows there that would accommodate those existing poles, those black dots that are there. This option would also require some additional right-of-way to be implemented. Next slide, please. Now, we did spend a lot of time on this option thinking about how the golf carts would be separate from the multi-use trail to keep the safety factors in mind with the signage and the striping. And that was one of DOT's concerns. This is a section that shows how it would look like under the bridge. Next slide, please. The slide on the top is the existing condition, or the graphic on the top there shows existing. And then there's a high tide condition, which shows what it would be like at high tide. And then the other one, which shows what it would be like at low tide. So that structure would be on top there. Next slide, please. This particular section shows the retaining wall that would be required. The existing graphic is on the top with the steep slopes there, and on the bottom it shows the retaining wall that would be required there and the separation between the golf carts and the multi-use trail there. Next slide, please. This alternate shows really the same thing, the same sections. Okay. I think we need to be on slide 18. Looks like we went backwards.
You said go ahead twice, and I went ahead twice. So you're on the right slide now.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, excellent. So we're on slide 18. Okay, as I mentioned, this is just a skinny down version of the 20-foot trail. It requires a little bit of less property on this one. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a quick question?
Yes, I have one as well. Go ahead, Commissioner Mariano.
With this 12-foot trail, does that allow golf carts?
That was my question. So I'm assuming, Mr. Kurtz, these are very similar, except that alternate B allows golf carts and alternate D would not allow golf carts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I apologize for the choppy presentation. It's a lot of delay in the slides here, so I'm not able to have a smooth presentation, not being able to see the slides. So I want to apologize to the presentation on that.
It's going fine. We're all kind of, learning the system, so
Okay.
It's no problem at all.
All right. So we looked at, obviously, cost is an important factor in these. And looking at the cost, the one that would accommodate the golf cart, alternate B, came in at about $4.1 million once it got widened to 20 feet with the separation required by DOT of the golf carts and the multi-use trail. Alternate D without the golf carts is a little bit cheaper at $2.9 million. Next slide, please. We presented this at the Joint Cities and Counties workshop last fall, and there was a consensus among those folks that alternate B was preferred, so we went ahead since it was scored the highest. Also was consensus of those folks that that's the recommended route. Next slide, please. And this is how it might look from the river, looking kind of on the west side there, back north at Catches. Next slide, please. So the next steps are really to finalize the report after this particular meeting, and then do the post-feasibility to look at funding opportunities and see what those, see what the best recommendations for those are.
Mr., could we go back?
And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kurtz. Could we go back to the slide that just showed the computer graphic of what it might look out from the water level right there? there any questions for Mr.? Go ahead, Commissioner Mariano.
I tell you, that picture looks phenomenal. I was, I think I talked this long ago when if you stayed at a hotel at Universal, go under an underpass where they have it under a bridge, it looked real good. That looks really good. And I think that's rock solid as far as for longevity. And I think it's not only funding we've got to look at as far as opportunities, but the city's, Newport Richie's made it very clear that golf carts are a big part of this whole thing, that not really is interested, if interested, to do it without doing it right.
Right, I've said it here publicly at MPO meetings, and I didn't speak on behalf of my council, or the council, it's Newport Richie City Council, without speaking to them first. But yeah, it continues that the stance of the city of Newport Richie, we're looking to, we're all in on this as long as it includes golf carts, because it's not even in our city limits. And we're looking at the economic, we feel that strongly that having this done properly is going to have a huge economic impact on the Port Richey waterfront and downtown Newport Richey. Once again, I've said this over and over again, I speak to people on a weekly basis that are moving to the city of Newport Richey, not only because, but one of the key factors was the fact that they could have a golf cart. I mean, it's really taken off that well. City of Port Richey, I know a lot of residents there, they feel the same way. And this would just, once again, it would connect for both pedestrians, multi-use trail, and golf carts, the Port Richey waterfront to the historic downtown Newport Richey that are both such huge assets to Pasco County, especially the West Coast. So once again, as Commissioner Mariano had pointed out earlier, it does need to include golf carts, and I agree. This is what we're looking, this is the example of the change, looking at this slide, that we're looking for West Pasco County. And this would be a catalyst project, I think, and it would, if we can get the funding and we have the support of the MPO board, I believe we have the support of the county commission as well, both municipalities, it's just going to be a great project, and I'm really excited about it. Commissioner Starkey, go ahead. I'm sorry, I can barely, you're on small. Go ahead, Commissioner Starkey.
Yeah, this looks fantastic. I just wonder if there's any way we could get rid of those two poles and put that power under, and then you would even have a better presentation. But I love this, and as I said before, not only is this a transportation project, but it is an economic development project. And I do think as we look funding, we should look at DEO funding for this as well. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Starkey. Any other comments?
Definitely without the golf carts, it's a no-go, so.
I would agree.
Very nice.
Go ahead, Commissioner Starkey.
Do you have a rendering of the other side of the bridge? What that might look like?
We do not have a rendering.
I just wondered,
of that.
he's showing one side of the bridge, the west side. Does he have a rendering of what the east side of the bridge might look like?
We do not,
Unfortunately,
have a rendering. We only have one of the west side.
And I would also agree, Mr. Kurtz, that this definitely needs to come in off as option B and D both show off Bailey Avenue. I mean, that's the safest and best route to go for sure. Commissioner Mariano?
I was going to say, have we, I know Lowe's in the city were talking about doing a land swap or a donation, et cetera. What are the figures based upon this $4 million as far as like right-of-way costs?
Commissioners Mariano, the right-of-way costs were based on the current property appraisals. They did not include any potential loss of business during construction period or other factors, but the right-of-way acquisition for the whole project, that limitation was a little under $140,000. The next step would be, once we obtain funding, to conduct right-of-way acquisition appraisals and right-of-way acquisition Those are two of the next steps. We have drafted a CDBG COVID grant citing the loss of economic opportunity in the Millers Bayou area, and are looking to submit a grant application requesting funding for the appraisals, right-of-way acquisition, parking lot reconfiguration, the PD&E study, and a portion of the construction. Unfortunately, the pot of funding available could not fund the whole $4.1 million estimate. But we're looking at doing roughly a $1.6 million CDBG COVID application. Now, that application is going to have to be vetted against any other CDBG COVID applications that might be submitted by other departments or divisions in the county, because the county can only submit one public development application. We also are looking at other funding sources, but and other grant sources as well, including economic development.
Thank you. Commissioner Starkey, go ahead.
Mary Helen, I think we only got $860,000 in that CDBG COV grant, but the state this week got $1 billion of CDBG money from HUD. Also yesterday, EDA invested $1.5 billion, and to me, this is a perfect EDA grant. And I've asked Ralph Laird to see in Tallahassee what's going on with that.
Yes, yes, Commissioner Starkey.
COV funding that went to the states instead of the counties.
Yes, Commissioner Starkey. That grant,
I hear you,
can easily be, the amount can be reduced. We're also looking at Rebuild Florida, general infrastructure grants, and as well as economic development assistance grants, opportunities, and CDBG mitigation grants.
I had one on I was wondering if it's possible to access, to have like kayak or some other kind of access for boaters along the side, like steps that go down to the water, where you can kayak up and tie-offs for kayaks.
Commissioner Starkey, it's my understanding the city of Port Richey has plans for a canoe kayak launch at Waterfront Park. On the east side of US 19, there is an existing boat ramp that is owned by a private entity that we are going to have to design in order. It's a grass boat ramp, and so the design will have to design to make that still passable. It's possible that would be the place. This feasibility study did not include enough funding for us to consider canoe kayak launch sites as part of this project.
It seems like if there was an entrepreneur who wanted to have a little stand somewhere along there, that we might just keep that in mind as we design it to see if we can have that opportunity.
The Cody River Marina is just to the east of where the trail would connect on the east side, and I think that's a current business that certainly would have that opportunity.
Commissioner Mariano?
If you look at in downtown Tampa by the Marriott Waterside, underneath the bridge, they have a concessionaire that does paddle boards and paddle bikes. I don't know, and so throwing an idea out there.
Commissioner Mariano?
Commissioner Starkey, I think you got a great idea to have kayaks be able to, at least, if nothing else, park there. And I think that there's probably, from looking at the gap, as we saw from the picture, there may be an opportunity there. And maybe we just set up where we set a docks up so that you can be paddleboarding or kayaking from your home, you'd be able to go there and then park your thing right in that area. So I think you're onto something we should go take a look at.
Yeah, exactly.
And kayak launches don't have to
I
be.
think so too.
Don't have to be that extravagant. We have a kayak launch at Sims Park across from the boat ramp, and it's simply a floating dock, and it's got this metal launch on top of it, and you just place your kayak in there, and then you push it halfway out, and you get in, and it drops right in the water. So there's a lot of options for different types of kayak launching, but I like the idea as far as engaging the private sector as well, an entrepreneurial spirit, and see if someone wants to maybe go along with that idea, but I think it's definitely feasible. Are there any other questions or concerns regarding this this presentation? Seeing none, well, thank you very much, Ms. Duke and Mr. Kurtz for the presentation. That computer-generated graphic that we saw, is that currently on the website? And if not, can we put it on the website?
It is on the website.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Mariano.
Or
Go ahead, Ms. Duke, go ahead.
I'll double check and make certain that it's there. I believe it is there, but I'll double check.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Mariano?
I would like this to, especially that graphic, it was such a good picture that, I think it's something, if you can send us that link that we can all share with our own Facebook and newsletters, et cetera, to get the word out there, I think it's that exciting a project that people will get really fired up on it.
I agree. Mr. Blackshear, is there any way you could send all the MPO board members the link to that website, please, just via email, where we can just share it electronically?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that. Great idea. All right. Is there any other business, meetings, scheduled, items of note that we need to know about, Mr. Blackshear?
No, sir.
Okay. I do want to take this time to thank staff. You've done a tremendous job putting these virtual meetings together. I'm not very computer savvy, and I wasn't even in attendance. I had a hard time figuring out how to download the app and log in the first time we had this trial meeting. But staff has done a phenomenal job. It's with other than a couple delays when people are speaking, it's really been very, very effective. And I just want to commend staff and thank you for all you've done to enable us to meet this way.
Yes, sir, and we appreciate the IT staff. They've been tremendously helpful in putting everything together for us.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, let me jump in real quick. Mike Moore.
Go ahead, Commissioner Moore.
All right, thanks. I do want to take a minute to actually welcome Mr. Blackshear to Pasco County. And I know it's been a little crazy over the last few months, and I think you came in March, but you definitely have an impressive background, impressive resume. I know you've been a Pasco County resident for some time, so I'm sure you're happy to travel back and forth to other counties now. But with that, on behalf of everybody, I just want to welcome you. We're happy to have you here and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Starkey?
Mr. Blackshear, I echo Commissioner Moore's comments. And board members, I wanted to know if any of you have had the opportunity to get on the Starkey Gap. I know we missed our celebration, but we're going to reschedule for the fall. I will tell you, my first time going to ride it, I had to slam on my brakes as the car turning right out of Starkey's place. I was crossing. It's definitely scary to cross 54, but once you get across, it's a beautiful trail. It is filled with people of all ages. I can't tell you how many kids I've seen with the training wheels, skateboarders. There's whole families walking. We don't have a trailhead, so people have made their own trailhead along Trinity Boulevard. So the other day I counted 20 cars parked in the grass on Trinity Boulevard, where you can access the trail. It goes through Fox Hollow Golf Club, the golf course, and gets to Eldridge Walk. And a whole group of us rode, I guess it was Thursday, and there was 100 people on the trail. So really, I recommend you getting out. We also, our cyclists come up from Pinellas County. At our start the other day, I think there was a peloton of 50 cyclists enjoying some kind of beverage before they headed south on their bike ride. So it was really cool to see, and it's just great to see everybody out on it.
I would agree, Commissioner. We know a lot of people live in that area through our soccer club, and I'm constantly seeing pictures on Facebook of families out enjoying the new section of the trail, and it's really been received quite well by the public. Okay, if there's nothing else to bring before the board, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron?